Gonna catch up on the Johnny Somali drama. There's a couple of vids I want to take out.
So following on from the previous video, a lot of people were discussing what punishment Johnny Somali should get following all the trouble he's caused in Japan. Some of you were quite vocal on what you think his punishment should be. He was arrested on the 21st of September.
What was that? He's a sociopath. He has zero empathy and zero remorse. He belongs under the jail. Under the jail. Wow. That's the hole, isn't it? That's like a whole nother section of the prison part. Let's hope people out there will hunt him down and do what has to be done. By that I mean have a nice chat with him off camera. Oh, of course. As an American living in Japan for 35 years, this guy is an embarrassment. He deserves 3 years in prison, maximum fine, and deportation. The prison time is the key thing, as he is unlikely to learn anything without it. Yeah, if he gets off without really paying much punishment, then obviously he's just going to go and do it again. He'd almost do it the next day, this kind of person. How the heck did this guy go to Japan and not a normal person? Get to go to Japan and not a normal person. I wish I could go to Japan. Travel is a privilege. Passport revoked. Get him out of here, that's what he says. Well, if he was in the early days of the American Ninja Warrior, you used to go to Japan to do their competition. Sasuke.
He was arrested on the 21st of September by Japanese police. This all happened
He
on
sure
stream,
was.
and it was mentioned that his charge was for trespassing, likely into this construction site which he streamed around the 30th of August. Now, what's going to happen to Johnny Somali?
To me, this just screams of someone pushing their luck. The whole point is he's never going to stop pushing until he's in jail. That's the whole premise. It's like a little toddler. It's a child, basically. They recognize that there's boundaries. And their parents will determine how big the boundary is before they get in trouble.
You can hear him on stream asking mods to call the embassy and also asking for a lawyer. This is probably the first smart thing Johnny Somali's actually done. He's going to be held in a local police station, and this can be for up to 23 or maybe
Johnny Somali can be held for up to 23 days and can be extended to 28 days. All right, well, that's a start.
even 28 days. In this time, the police are going to try and get a confession from him.
Is this what it looks like in a police station? Yeah. Seems a little dramatic.
To help speed up the process. If he confesses to his crimes, this can speed up the process of what's about to happen
Maybe it's a Japanese police station, we don't know.
next. If he doesn't confess, it gives the police up to 23 days to gather more evidence against him, but it seems like the police likely have evidence, as they knew he was streaming when he was arrested.
Not to mention all the evidence that he's recorded of himself doing these things. Dum.
So Johnny Somali has been arrested for the crime of trespassing. He can be held for up to 23 days. The police can detain him for 48 hours and only need to inform him of the crime that he's been suspected of. Johnny Somali has the right to remain silent here and also to a lawyer, but Japanese police can initially begin questioning him without a lawyer being present.
Is that true? I guess, if he's saying it, it's got to be true, right? That's pretty intense, right? No, I am not saying anything. No comment, no comment, no comment. It's just, boom. They're on your case. Can he get away with just saying no comment now? As long as they keep questioning him? He can just keep being obnoxious and not really answering the question, right? It's not like they can hit him, I don't think, as a punishment.
So if the police decide in this 48-hour period there's enough evidence to justify detaining Johnny Somali further, they can present this evidence to a public prosecutor, and if they agree, they have 24 hours to request an initial 10-day detention order for police to continue their investigation. As a second 10-day detention period can also be obtained to continue the investigation. If there's no evidence at this stage, then the case can be dropped from here and the suspect released. So just to confirm, there is a chance that Johnny Somali could be held for 23 days, and this could be extended up until a total of 28 days.
Looks like that's most likely going to be the case. I don't think the trespassing is going to be a big enough reason to sort of keep this guy in actual jail for like any serious amount of time. It is funny though, on this guy, the right to remain silent, I don't think he's recognized that right since he was, well, since he was born. Like, I don't think ever.
Now, for minor offences, there have been cases where a sincere apology and an offer of reparation to any victim of any crime can lead to an early release. But if Johnny Somali pleads not guilty to any of these crimes, he's likely going to be detained further while police investigate fully. Bear in mind there's no bail in the Japanese legal system, so it's rarely granted in these cases. Now, what happens next
Yeah, I heard the Japanese are a lot more strict with the law.
is there's a few options and it depends on the leniency of the judge. So one option is that the charges may be dropped after Johnny Somali is held for 23 days. And this can be the case as they may assume that the holding of Johnny Somali for 23 days is sufficient punishment and he's a first time offender. This happened to another streamer called Joey Chaotic.
The guy's obviously a muppet, but he doesn't really deserve to do any serious jail time for this. He just needs to be told, strictly, ideally, that this is not cool. And then if he gets caught doing it a second time, then you can go crazy on him because he's been given the warning. Like, if it's his first time and stuff, I think it'd be a little bit extreme to be like, yeah, put that guy in jail for like 3-5 years for what, walking into a warehouse? Not really. Is he a complete dick and muppet? Of course, absolutely. Yes, he is. Is he going to continue to do stuff like this? Most likely, probably yes. But he's been given his warning. He's been given his chance. So the second time comes around, that's it. You're done on that, right?
Was trespassing in an abandoned building in Fukushima with his photographer, and he was held for 35 days.
Put him in jail for 3 years so other influencers think twice about doing this shit. There is the opportunity, and that is the case in the law, where they do make examples of people. But you don't think that's a bit extreme, do you? And as much as a twat as this guy is, I mean, it might happen eventually. Maybe they're just waiting for someone to do something a little bit more egregious than just trespassing, essentially. Then maybe they're going to sort of set that example.
Days, but then subsequently released. So Johnny Somali could face a similar outcome if the judge is lenient. There is usually a hearing which would occur, and that would even happen if Johnny Somali has pleaded guilty. Now, the key question is if the prosecution are just going to stick with the trespassing charge, or if they're going to add on the public nuisance and harassment onto his charges, because that will affect the severity of his punishment. For minor offences, you could receive prison time for 1 to 3 years. However, you could also get a suspended sentence, which depends on good behaviour. And if there's no repeat in crime,
this guy's gonna have good behaviour.
However, if there is a repeat, you will have to serve the initial sentence and the new sentence you receive. So if they decide to be strict on Johnny Somali, he could receive a custodial sentence, which often involves paying a fine and serving time in jail. Japanese prison involves a lot of hard labour. You have to adhere to a strict schedule, waking up at 6 a.m. and working hard labour like woodwork, factory work, cleaning or making goods. Johnny Somali could have to serve between 1 to 5 years of this. It's highly doubtful he would have to serve more.
It doesn't actually look that bad. Do I sound kind of crazy if I say that? I'm just looking at that and I'm thinking it almost looks like some sort of camp or something where you go in activity camp. This is your room. This is where you'll be staying. You'll be getting up and learning how to craft these boxes in the morning. I don't know. It doesn't actually look that bad.
More time than 1 to 5 years. And once he is released from prison, he would likely face deportation back to America and a travel ban of at least 3 to 5 years to Japan itself.
3 to 5 years at least, yeah. I mean, I mean, if someone's being enough, I think that's where you could be a little bit more extreme. It's just be like, you just can't come back to the country for like 20 years. So by that point, that's really significant. Like, you are not coming back to the country. Your YouTube career is going to be dead in 20 years' time, or your Kickstream career is going to be dead in 20 years' time. So that's significant enough time. Get him out. If he comes back, then you're going. They can throw anything at you at that point if you decide to come back in the country. That's the better option, I think. Get him out of there.
So it's all dependent on how lenient they are willing to be with Johnny Somali. They could go easy on him and drop the charges after his initial detainment, like they did with streamer Johnny Chaotic, or they could be particularly harsh on Johnny Somali and he may have to face a fine, imprisonment, and then deportation from Japan. It also depends on what kind of defense Johnny Somali could build for himself. He could argue that he's a foreigner and he didn't understand the signs of it being a construction site.
Oh, it's hilarious. I love the way he's presenting this as if it's serious. Obviously he is, and it is true. But the very idea of this guy being able to pull that off, holy crap, you would need an amazing lawyer for that.
But this generally requires a lot of planning and a good lawyer. I've even read that some lawyers are not interested in helping out Johnny Somali as he's been insulting their culture and history. So, what do you guys think on what should be the punishment for Johnny Somali? Should the charges be dropped against him, or should he serve time in prison? Let me know your...
At best, he should do like a couple of weeks or something in prison. I don't think he should get anything super serious in prison. Is he an idiot? Would I ever do this? No, of course I wouldn't. Yes, he is an idiot. Like, he totally deserves a punishment, but that's kind of extreme, I think. Like, I don't think he's a terrible person. I think he's an obnoxious asshole, but I don't think he's like really going out of his way to be. He's kind of like a child. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's kind of a child pushing his luck. That's how I get the feeling. I don't feel like he's like actually assaulting or really injuring people or anything like that. It's not like terrible person. He's just a kid who's being really dumb and probably won't learn from it unless he gets something extensive. Prison's a bit much. A couple of weeks would at least give him a lesson. At least a lesson. But I think deport and you can't come back for 20 years. And that's my generous option. Otherwise, I would just say you cannot come back to the country. If you are caught coming back to the country, they can do anything they want with you at that point. That's what I think, honestly. Just get him out of there.
Thoughts in the comment section below, and stay tuned for any further updates.
There you go. That's a good video. There's one more from 5 Minute School here. And this is the part where people like this are starting to cause laws to get created. I did mention that in the other video. So Japan to make new laws banning IRL streaming because of Johnny Somali, potentially. We'll find out.
There was a news report to where the Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno speaks about streamers in Japan. He says that they should refrain from invading privacy.
That's pretty big, because I can't imagine in the UK them being like a press conference with like Parliament and they're going, we got to deal with these streamers that keep harassing the Houses of Parliament or Big Ben or anything like this. So he's like doing a public announcement here in reference to freaking streamers.
And causing trouble. Matsuno then criticized the so-called nuisance YouTubers who film and distribute their nuisance activities on the internet, saying they should refrain from invading privacy and causing trouble. Matsuno then goes on to say, of course we must ensure the freedom of YouTube users, but we must also refrain from infringing on the privacy of others and causing trouble. He emphasized that the police would also have to follow this same policy. Streamers such as Ice Poseidon and Sam Pepper.
Now that name, Ice Poseidon, I think he, for example, if he was caught, you know, doing the things he did, he deserves a lot more jail time. There's a sort of like, if I'm just going off my instincts, the difference between Somali and Ice Poseidon, I feel like Ice Poseidon's a lot more, what's the bloody word I'm looking for here? A lot more rough. It's not really the right word at all. But he's a lot more, maybe malicious, I think. I think he's a lot more malicious in the way he harasses people. The Johnny Somali guy is a twat, but I don't think he's being super malicious in the way he does it. He's just like a kind of a kid just playing around. Totally shouldn't be doing what he's doing. I'm not saying that at all, but I feel like there's definitely a difference.
Then go on to talk about this and the fact that there may be new policies put in place in Japan to reduce harassment from in real life streaming in Japan and protecting the privacy of the public.
Yeah.
Japan is actually making a lot of bad IRL streaming
Read it to me.
because of Johnny Somali.
That's Ice Poseidon right there. Yep.
Cabinet announced a new policy which may into law on restrictions on IRL streaming. Following streamer Johnny Somali arrest in Japan, imagine being such a nuisance you force the country to create new laws. So they're making a law to, they're making new privacy laws. So you
I thought he was going to say progress, and I was about to agree with him. They're making progress.
can't stream in public in Japan.
Fuck that.
Because of Johnny Somali, which I think he's in jail in Japan right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
The gig is up, boys. The gig is up.
and that is kind of crazy. Like, that sucks, because Japan streaming there is, like, super sick.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, rip Japan, I guess.
On to the next country, I guess.
If that law goes through, fucking rip streaming in Japan.
Imagine all them IRL streamers that live there.
Yeah, dude, like, Hugh Sama, he's fucking RIP to Hugh, bro. Dude's gonna be homeless.
There you have it. So that's a little heads up on the Johnny Somali information. And hopefully you enjoyed it.